Kate Coyne is the senior editor for People magazine, which broke the news that Sandra Bullock had left home. It was also the first to receive that statement from Jesse James. Kate, good morning. Good to have you with us.
Good morning.
In that statement, and Ben talked a little bit about it, he says the vast majority of allegations against him, he being Jesse James, are untrue and unfounded. Doesn't really deny the relationship here, though.
He doesn't deny anything specifically. I mean, the interesting thing is he's saying that the vast majority of the allegations are untrue and unfounded, but he doesn't say what is true and what's not. And in fact, he actually specifically says he's not going to discuss what he considers to be a private matter in any sort of public forum.
Which is interesting. We'll see. We'll see if that lasts. Also, of course, says basically asking for forgiveness there from his wife, Sandra Bullock, from his children. Is this an apology, though?
Well, it's an apology for something. It's not completely clear what it's an apology for, but even if it's simply an apology for befriending or making an acquaintance with somebody who ended up going to the tabloids and bringing this into their lives, you know, he is accepting blame for that at the very least.
And we're seeing from him, we just saw some of those pictures, but seeing with his wedding ring on, bringing his kids to school, Sandra Bullock, though, has really disappeared. I mean, frankly, you can't blame her. Handling this very differently, it almost appears like it's business as usual for Jesse James.
Well, he really has no choice but to maintain business as usual. He has primary custody of his youngest child, so someone's got to take her to school, someone's got to be there. And I think it's understandable that Sandra right now doesn't want to be in the public eye in any way, but it's probably not the worst thing in the world for Jesse to be out there, taking his kids to school, wearing his wedding ring, reminding the world that he is a husband, he is a father, he is trying to be a good guy.
And he is asking for forgiveness, as we saw in that statement, which he brought to you all at People. Why now? Any idea on why this woman has come forward at this point? I mean, was she waiting for Sandra Bullock to possibly win an Oscar?
It's hard to say what the timing of this was motivated by. I mean, her story indicates that this happened months and months and months ago. So it's a very good question, why now? I mean, you hope that this wasn't something that was sat on until Sandra was at her highest moment, and it was designed, therefore, to bring her down when she was at her happiest. I mean, you'd like to be a little less cynical than that. But it's interesting that this coincided with what should be the happiest time of her life.
Right. You'd like to be less cynical, but oftentimes, as we know, there is money that changes hands, and sometimes, perhaps, people do wait. Is there any indication that Sandra Bullock knew about this, knew about the news that was going to break prior to all of this happening this week?
Absolutely none. And that's really what's kind of the most heartbreaking, is that you watch the clips now of her Oscar speech, of her Golden Globe speech, of the many speeches she gave, praising her husband, talking about how he's always had her back. And it's really heartbreaking because it's pretty clear, no, she had no idea that there was any inkling of this.
It's a terrible thing to happen to any person, especially though we hear so much about what a lovely person Sandra Bullock is.
Yeah,
so it's terrible to have that played out. Kate Coyne, thanks so much for coming in this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
A lot happens early on The Early Show, weekday mornings on CBS.